state, we've proposed that change. The final proposed change is in regards to the 8 credits of English required for graduation. The proposed change allows students to waive 2 credits per year English requirement during the senior year. Okay, so currently there's a 2 credit requirement per year for English. Okay, and what's happening is they'll take 2 their freshman year, 2 their sophomore year. Come their junior year, they can take a course like AP Language and Composition, which is a 3 credit course, or they can take 2 credits of AP Language and Composition and even a dual enrollment course, which is then 1.5 credits. So some of them are going into their senior year with 7+ English credits. So if they have if they've followed that path, they can waive for their senior year so they don't have to take 2 more credits. This will really open up flexibility in their schedule, allow them to follow a pathway like maybe a CTE path or a STEM path, or if they've already front-loaded some of that English their junior year. So here the English requirements during the senior year can be waived if the following conditions are met. Condition 1, the student has to complete all 8 English credits, and at least one of those credits has to be AP Language and Composition, Dual Enrollment English 101, or Dual Enrollment English 102. And the student has to successfully complete the senior project as part of their English course or independent study. So that still has to take place. And that sums up all of the proposed changes in this policy.
Is the state still paying for the test if they do take it? Because wasn't that part of it, is that if they took the SAT?
Yes. That's still being, yeah.
That isn't changing.
No, we provide the opportunity. It's being reimbursed from the state. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, next, A.J. Watson will report on the following: Head Start program update and kindergarten registration update.
Good evening, board chair and board members. Just 2 items from elementary to report. The first one is the Head Start program. They have currently received 182 applications for this upcoming school year. The program is funded for 183 children and charged with enrolling families with the greatest need first. Applications will continue to be accepted through the month of July. They still have a number of open staff positions which they are interviewing for and working to fill prior to the beginning of school. The Head Start office opened on July 18th. The first day of school for full-day preschool learners is August 22nd. Part-day learners start on August 30th. The program plans to have 1 classroom at Tyhee and 9 classrooms at Lincoln. The new modular units have arrived at Lincoln, and today they were in the process of being set on the foundation, and they actually fit on the foundation. So the new classrooms are currently on schedule to be open and ready for the first day of school in August.
Cool.
And just a quick update on kindergarten registration at our elementary schools. The current kindergarten registration count is 750 learners, and that is up 46 students from last year at this time.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Tanya Wilkes will report on the following camp request.
So if you go around town, you see a lot of camps going on right now, especially football. But we did have one request coming in August. They do a little camp for middle school students to help them get ready for the tryouts, get all the butterflies out. So we have just the one camp.
So in middle school, it's just, do they have volleyball in middle school?
Yeah.
Just 7th and 8th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so they offer this camp for kids to come hit the ball prior to tryouts.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next topic on the agenda is business operations. Will be presented by Jonathan Balls. He'll report on food service summer park program report and bus routes for 2022-2023.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for your time this evening. Just real quick, first, by way of information, we are almost right through half of our summer feeding program. There's a couple charts in your packet there, just for your information, the different numbers per weekday. As you can see, some Wednesday, Thursday being the highest, Friday being the lowest, which kind of makes sense for family activity purposes. The second one is meals served per week. You'll notice this week 6 is a little bit light. That is because it's as of Monday a week ago, Monday July 11th. And so you can kind of see how it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit there. It does dip down during the 4th of July week as family take vacations and so forth. The next one is by park. Again, there's 7 parks. Stewart Park is our most popular park, followed by Alameda Park, and then Lower Ross Park are by far the most frequented parks in our community. And then lastly, kind of almost a 2-decade history of kind of our total meals served. And you can, again, this was as of on July 11th, 46,500 meals served. I anticipate, for comparison, I dove into the numbers a little bit. We were down about 2% in June this year compared to last year, about 634 meals. So I anticipate we should end up fairly close in that to 85,000 meals served once we are done in August. So that is just information. It's going great. We appreciate all of our summer workers and that are helping feed our learners during the summer.
Yep.
So okay. Next is for action items. This comes by way of Idaho code that 33-1502 says that no later than the regular August meeting that the school board needs to approve bus routes and bus stops. We have 85 bus routes, so to save 85 different pages, we just kind of put in the maps of our bus stops for our 3 different school types: elementary, middle school, and high school. If you'd like to see those individual routes, or in my information here, I have by school the bus stops. It's all detailed down to into that stop. Again, as a reminder, we, on a typical day, will transport about 7,700 students throughout the day, morning, and in the evening. And our total bus fleet, again, the 85 bus year, 5,021 miles per day.
Wow.
Per day.
Per day.
Wow.
The full fleet, obviously, that's all routes. We're running midday routes as well. So I'm anxious to see kind of what our mileage does with all-day kindergarten and see what that'll do. So the request for you this evening is to approve the bus routes and bus stops for the 22-23 school year, and then also give authority to administration to make changes as traffic patterns. As we know, there'll be some construction, Chubbuck Road. We'll do that for several years as we bypass that area of town, and as well as our learners move in and move out who ride the bus, those bus routes change, and we'd like the authority to handle those in our great transportation department, so as they seem fit. So that's
Can I
actually.
just ask,
Yes, please,
I
of course.
always have questions.
Of course.
This is the first time I've seen these kind of maps. So the red lines, are those the zones, or is that?
Correct. Those would.
I mean, the route?
No, they are the zones. I'm trying to think.
Okay. Oh, yeah, yours are red too.
Yep, they are all red. I'm not, they are the zones. I don't know exactly what, I could find out for you what they represent.
Aren't they the school boundaries?
Yeah, that's what I was, but on elementary, there could be 13 there. You're absolutely right. So thanks, Clerk Johnson. Yes, they are the boundaries
Yep.
of each school. Elementary, middle.
Oh, I see.
Of each
Okay.
school, yep. Elementary, middle school, and high school. Thank you.
I guess I'm just looking at the high school one, but,
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
only three if you look at the. high
Yep,
school.
3, yep, that's exactly right.
Like
Sorry,
15.
I should have clued into that sooner.
Okay, well, that's what I.
Good
when
question.
I looked at it earlier, that's what I thought they were.
Are the buses, I mean, with high school kids, so many of them drive. Are your capacity on high school, I mean, obviously throughout the year, as more kids get licenses, I mean, does that,
Correct. So it definitely impacts the ridership, and we make adjustments accordingly as those. But we have a pretty good feel of how many of those students in high school do ride versus not. But we, again, give the opportunity if they would like to ride, we do that.
Do you see the miles going down with that? You mentioned that it would change with the all-day kindergarten because instead of back and forth twice a day.
Correct. I would anticipate the miles going down, but then on the flip side, with some of our major construction there on the north side of town there with Chubbuck, we're gonna have to alter the times a little bit to make sure our learners get to school on time. So there might be a little bit increased miles there. So I'll just be watching that number just to see. I anticipate it would go down slightly.
Sounds like quite a process to figure that out.
It is, and we have a great transportation coordinator, supervisors, a great team back there that work really hard and to make sure the safety for our learners and make sure they get to home and school on time and safely. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is employee services, which will be presented by Carl Smart. Infinite Campus IC Technology Department update.
I don't think I've ever been up here before 6:30 in the evening, so I can pontificate for the next half an hour if you want me to.
No.
You're good, Miss
I'll just say
Judy?
it for everyone.
Miss Judy says no. We're gonna move on.
I
All
can
right.
see people looking out the window.
Well, I'll be brief then, if that's what you want, as board members. Like I said, I'll be brief. I'm talking with folks back in technology. I was going to say transportation, but in technology, they're doing a lot of work right now. It's boring, but very important to them. So infrastructure is very important to make things continually run, and they've just finished their switch upgrades throughout our system. So that's been done, and so we always want to keep on topic of a switch. If a switch fails, then it brings down a lot of part of the network. So, and of course, if you go around a lot of the classrooms, you can see old wires from old TVs or old VCRs or old connections to the internet or whatever it might be. They are in the process of going through and cleaning up classrooms. Just cutting down wires that don't need to be there and actually taking wires and mapping them back to see where they actually come from. So they are in the process of doing that and just kind of tidying up their infrastructure in the classrooms and just, like I said, you can look around about any classroom and see wires that don't need to be there anymore. So, and of course, they are always preparing for the beginning of school, and they go through a process called rostering. And what that means is taking data from Infinite Campus and preparing it for moving it out to all the different applications we might have for special ed, for I don't know how many different applications we have, but the students and their teachers need to be fed into those systems so the teachers can utilize those different programs to help in their instruction. So they're preparing that, and they're hoping by August 1st to have 85% of that completed. And of course, we can't complete it 100% until we have kids in school and see who actually shows up. So that's.
have the students already, the high school kids already registered for next year? So like classes and,
I think they're still.
My child has.
yeah, that's why I assumed that was done already.
My kid's not in high school anymore, so I'm kind of out of touch with that one. So. And of course, our IC is out there. We have our summer school submission we still have to do, and we have about a month to get that prepared and taken care of. But that will be our final IC submission for the year, then we start into 2023. So we'll begin that again in October. And with that, concludes my report tonight.
Thank you, Carl, appreciate it.
Got another question, real fast.
Sure.
So I thought we bought some new software. Is that not for, didn't we buy some new organization software? When? Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of it. I saw it.
Skyward.
Yeah, what is it?
We have a transition date of January 1st, 2024.
Oh, okay.
But in the meantime, we have had 2 or 3 Zoom meetings with our folks at Skyward. And in fact, I sent them a database backup last week so we could begin having some transition things. They got copies of our check stock just to make sure it's going to work. So we are in the process of making sure we are prepared for that. It's going to be several months. So right now it's kind of slow, but it'll pick up as we get closer to January 1st of 2024.
Thank you. I just couldn't remember when the,
Yeah, and what all does that include? Is it payroll all the way to grades, like everything?
It's not going to, Infinite Campus is still going to be a side. That's going to be our student information system, our SIS. So Infinite Campus will still be that. What we'll have is basically a business software, finance, HR, payroll side.
okay.
And they will continue to run separately. And we'll have, including in that, like warehouse, requisitioning, and all that sort of thing in the finance side.
And I like the new website so far.
Well, that's good to hear. We've had a lot of positive feedback on our new website.
I don't know if now's the time, can I ask you something about that?
Sure.
Okay, so the website, the one thing that I was wondering is, how do you get to staff? Oh, I'm sorry. How do you get to administration and staff from that for individual schools?
You know, I don't know enough about that
Okay.
website architecture to give you a decent answer.
Okay,
My wife called me today looking for something, because I finally said, go to the quick links, and here's the link here. And most of the things you're going to
it's
want
not
to
on the
look at.
quick links. I do know it's not on the quick links because I looked through that. I looked, but I mean, I just spent 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, and if Courtney was here, she'd be able to tell you right off the
Okay.
bat.
Because I think that would be so nice for parents to be able to access straight to their school, their teacher, their administrator, you know. Anyway,
Yeah, I can get you to the employee portal. I can get you to wellness and payroll and business office right off the bat.
we'll figure it
But
out.
beyond that, I'd have to probably do the same thing you do, click and search. So,
Okay,
but if Courtney was here, she could tell you right off the bat how to get there,
okay,
right off the bat. So I wish I could help you out with that.
that's okay.
So
Thank
I'm
you.
taking a note here, and
Okay.
I'll visit with Courtney. She'll be back tomorrow,
Okay,
and we'll see what we can do to navigate that more.
okay,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
But like I said, I've gotten a few phone calls, go to that quick links, and a lot of that will be right there. So
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Carl, appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is Human Resources, presented by Brenda Miner for a job fair update and substitute teacher compensation increase and personal leave reimbursement increase.
Okay, good evening. First of all, I want to visit with you a little bit about the job fair that we had last Thursday. It was really exciting. We decided this year for the second annual job fair, we should have it indoors instead of outdoors. It was a little warm last year. So we did bring it inside, and I can report that we had around 50, which was really well attended, to be real honest with you. I had went to one in a different location, and there wasn't that many people for multiple companies. So I think that says a lot for the school district and what they're looking for, and their hours for their kids, and just some of those other benefits. And then we tried to feed them some treats and kind of be a one-stop shop. And so we had computers set up here so that people could come in, they could meet with all the department chairs. And I know, just for an example, that Mr. Watson, the first 2.5 hours were really busy with different people looking at paraprofessional positions, which is really great, because when I look at the openings and share those with you, that's one of our main focus, is that we have with part-time and full-time, we have upwards of about 24 of those positions to be filled to start the school year.
An increase in the applications with the partnership with Idaho State?
So actually, that's a great question because of that paraprofessional piece. ISU had to actually put a cap on it because we had so many people that have signed up. Again, when we first started that, we were envisioning 10, and we're at 52 paras who have signed up. So they,
Maybe new hires won't have.
so not right away, but we just want to get our feet wet a little bit and start with those first group of people who will start in the fall. Again, we have our opening for that on August 11th, and so that's going to be exciting, and most of them are all signed up, have their classes, and we did receive a letter that they'll have their tuition paid in full to start. So that's pretty exciting. All they'll need to pay for is their books. So I'm hopeful that that will continue to be a pull for our paras. Just unfortunately, right now, ISU is a little overwhelmed with the amount of people who decided to, I have to admit, I was a little surprised myself. So anyway, we will continue to work on that. But so the job fair was well received. Another real shout out for a group that was a lot of people signed up is food service. If you remember me speaking at the last one, we were concerned that there's a lot of food service openings. So of those 20 plus openings, I spoke with food service today and they have 22 interviews set up. So that's really exciting. I'm super hopeful that that continues to be the case. When we look at maintenance, we have a night custodian at Pokey and a building tech at Idaho, a couple counseling clerks. We have an attendance secretary at one of our high schools. Head Start, as Mr. Watson mentioned. We are in need of nurses. We did some interviews, I think, tomorrow for nurses, a school psych and an SLP. So we're looking at all of those positions. And then a mechanic, bus driver, and one of our tech positions and the security analyst. We'll also be looking for a new transportation coordinator, and so we have some of those options available. As far as certified positions in the teaching, we have 4 in each of the areas. We're pretty evenly dispersed. We have 4 elementary, 4 middle school, and 4 high school jobs. And I know that principals have started interviewing. In fact, my list was longer, and 2 of those have been crossed off since about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So that's good too. So like I say, I'm super happy that, we're able to get these going. And then you'll really see the paras. I know that number's a little alarming, but in all honesty, sometimes if you hire in May, by the time August comes around, because to go through that whole summer with no paycheck is kind of hard to just anticipate a job. And so those principals will be back in the buildings that first week of August, and those positions will start to be filled. And we had quite a few candidates for that came in through the job fair. And then in your packet, there's a memo that talks about a couple different topics. If you remember, we have had many discussions about substitutes and substitute pay, and I know that Deanna, that's been a big issue that we've talked about. And so just in looking as we move forward and as preventative, and when we look around at other districts, we've thought to raise that to $100 flat rate, which we've talked about before. And kind of one of the things that I've thought a lot about when we gave different rates for different people is, in all honesty, when you think about a classroom or you think about someone who's in there, the expectation for whoever comes into your classroom is the same, right? I mean, we want them to be able to, the management of students, the safety of students, and to the best that they can be able to provide instruction. And so we just feel that that was a good way to go, and we liked that suggestion, and we were hopeful that we can raise that substitute pay just for recruitment and just the response of people who were at the job fair. We had quite a few actually who were talking about substitute. One of the things that came up are teachers who are looking to get back in, but they kind of want to dip their feet in the water first and see where their interests are after being maybe a stay-at-home mom or something along those lines. So if you'll just consider that, we have that memo in your packet. Also, in that kind of same vision, we think about their personal days and that personal day reimbursement. And so, especially in the classified world, when you look at that, a $40 a day for a personal day, I mean, if you think about that, that's even by hour, that's like $5, right? So you can stay home, and most people really do appreciate the fact that that was raised to 80 in our classified, and so if we could keep with that, and then in certified, going from 80 to $125 on that. Just kind of a little bit of the numbers and what that looked like from last year. Just in the classified, there wasn't as much of, in fact, there was a little bit of a decrease as far as those days, but if you remember, we didn't bring that up until the school year had started, so they need to know that up front. And also sometimes in the classified, we have quite a few that work through the summer, and so those days look a little different. And then, but for certified, we went up from 464 days to 525. So that's quite a difference as far as the amount of days that were saved. So, participants, and then the days was 1,320, and that went up to 1,505.
So is
Sorry.
this if they cash out, or is if they take a day off, that's, I
If they
guess,
cash out.
Is it,
That's where they were able to have the double pay for the day if they cashed it out.
okay, that was my question. And then another question I have, and I don't know if this is, well, no, this would be for you. So are substitutes W-2s or are they 1099s? Are they considered employees? They are, okay.
So, and so those, are, like I say, when we look at retention and we look at all those benefits, and just kind of a plug, it wasn't on here, but we have started our insurance enrollment as well, and that's been a really busy place back in HR, and so just making sure that people are getting signed up, and all the letters have went out, and kudos to Carl and Shauna for getting all those insurance letters out to our retirees and people who are online and being able to fill out that paperwork.
can I ask you one other thing? On the reimbursement, how is that reimbursed? That's not the yearly, is that when, at retirement, or when, how is that, those days paid?
They were paid out in the June paycheck, so
At the end
it
of the year?
right,
So
and so if they had, just for example, if, classified, if they had 5 days and then they were able to be paid out at 80, that was paid in their June paycheck.
Okay. So this
Because you
isn't
can only roll over so
accumulated.
many, correct?
Just one.
Roll over
Yeah.
to one,
Oh.
okay.
And so, and then the other thing is if you remember, we did a random drawing and 10 of our staff members were able to have a gift card for $250. And I very rarely hear back when something like that, and there was quite a bit of feedback. It's just, I think people love a good drawing, right? So they were very excited for that.
Win.
So, yeah, especially if they win, right?
Too bad they had to give up personal days for it. I mean, you want to have it both ways, right?
Yeah, and I think that, and that's what we want them to do, is have a balance for sure. But we're just hopeful that there won't be as many days needed out this year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Brenda?
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry, Jim.
So, I mean, I really understand the need for what you're doing. So how's that look for our payroll? I mean, for our finances? Are we gonna be okay with that, or? I'm sure you've talked to Carl about that, and
Absolutely, and that's why we kind of looked at the days and the benefit and all of those things, and just the benefit really far outweighs any of those situations, because when students, I mean, I remember Heather talking about some of the classrooms out at Century when they had to combine classrooms and those things, just the amount of learning that's happening is so minimal, so kind of weigh in those pros and cons, but we're going to be good.
Good.
Okay,
Is that
thanks, Jim.
$100 pretty comparable to our immediate neighbors, Blackfoot, American Falls?
Right, and the other thing.
Is that pretty comparable?
Correct. In fact, Blackfoot, I think, is right at 100. And so the other thing about that is we had some other different incentives that we did during the school year, to try and keep subs coming, like the 100 days. And I think we paid out 26 subs that subbed over 100 days, and they had that $500 bonus. We're not going to start with any of those right now. We're hoping for just starting with everybody being at that rate of $100, and then kind of like you'd mentioned before, maybe adjust as we go, but we just felt like the one bump would really at least get us started.
Mhm. Yeah, and I would we could do incentives. I mean, I'm sure you know what you're doing, but just if there's some need, like you're saying, I agree with that.
Absolutely, and we'll bring that back to you if
And
that
save
comes
it-
up.
Save it for kind of a rainy day.
Exactly. We're not going to do any of those extra incentives right now to start, other than the ones that have been in place for years, but none of the COVID ones for our current time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Superintendent Report, presented by Dr. Howe, and report on the board calendar and the renewal of the 2021 ISBA Resolution Number 9.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, for our back-to-school events, we've got one that we've added to the agenda, but before that, even a strategic planning meeting. As you know, it's been hard to coordinate schedules because everyone needs a little bit of time off. And so I think where we finally landed is is August 2nd at 3 o'clock.
August 2nd.
Yeah, so I think in your
It's in the
addendum,
addendum.
Renee probably updated that, but in the regular board meeting notes, it's probably still the first.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I
it'll be
think
August 2nd.
I have the
And
new
then,
one.
of course, Tuesday, August 9th, will be a Community Prevention Committee meeting. August 16th will be a regular board meeting. That takes us about a month out. And then also on the 16th will be our all-staff back-to-school meeting. And Mrs. Miner and I went to the county commissioners and asked to be able to use the wellness complex, and they were very gracious in allowing us to do that. They said they wanted to be very supportive of education and teachers and staff, and so they're going to allow us to use that venue. We are very excited about that. We'll start at 8 a.m. with a box breakfast, and Mrs. Fisher is working in coordination with the Chamber of Commerce and I believe McDonald's. And so they are going to help out with that. And then we'll have a bit of a program and some introductions for the board. And so I would love for you to be there if it works for in your calendar.
Sure. It says 8:15, but it's 8.
Yeah, we'll start breakfast at 8.
Oh, I see.
So part of
Okay.
our plan too is that we will provide transportation. So I've been working with Craig Lively, the coordinator, and as part of the theme and what we're doing, we're going to bus them to the wellness complex. That will also help maybe with a little bit of parking congestion and get people in and out a little bit more quickly.
So where will they park?
Pardon me?
Where will they park at that point?
That was
Oh,
my question.
just in the regular parking, but we'll
At
be
their own
setting up some
schools.
bus lanes and that sort of thing as well.
Okay.
So at their individual schools?
Yeah, they'll be transported by their schools, other than Highland High School and Gate City. They can either walk
We
or
can
They
walk.
can just
do a
walk.
carpool or something, but the rest we'll bring in. So
I
that's
unfortunately will miss that,
the plan.
unfortunately, but
Oh, got it. Okay, all right, and then, let's see, on the 17th, we have proposed student reinstatement hearings as well as expulsion hearings. Presently, it looks to be about 5 hearings, and so we have a tentative start time of 3 o'clock. Because I anticipate those would go the 45 minutes that we typically set aside. If we could start a little earlier, that may not take us too late, but, and we can always start with 4 and then add 5th, or if the schedule doesn't allow, we can pick a different day. So I'll have Renee follow up with you.
yeah, I'm out of town that day, so now you can start earlier.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right.
but it is 3 right now.
3:30.
It's 3 though, right? Didn't you want to change it to 3?
Oh, I thought it was 3:30.
It's at
It's only
3:30.
3:30.
Oh, you don't want to change it to 3?
I'd love to change it earlier, but.
Oh, I can go earlier.
In the past, we've started those at 1 because we usually do have quite a few of them.
Yeah, I'm fine with 1.
If others are available to start at 1, we could
Sure.
definitely.
Okay, and so that is our calendar, and again, we'll follow up with you just to confirm dates on that last one for sure, and time. And so also for you tonight, I have a proposal to, and recommendation really, to renew the ISBA resolution number 9, which is on personnel funding. And as you may recall, or you will recall, I'm sure, we had a lot of discussion about this back in our budget and when we were setting up the budget and enrollment versus ADA kind of thing. And so you know that it's been a little bit complex and it's changed in the last 2 years to enrollment. And then this next year will also be, our funding will be based partially on enrollment. And so with that though, there is set up in statute that we can utilize some of those monies, up to 9% at the onset, for other expenses besides teaching staff. And so each year since they've implemented this, other than one, our district has lost that flexibility to be able to use those monies as, you know, as we see fit into the general revenue. And so we did take this resolution to ISBA 2 years ago, And as you can see, this was in partnership with Bonneville School District as well. Scott is the superintendent there, and he and I have spoken. Amy White helped put this together 2 years ago, well, about 2.5 years ago now. And so it had the due pass recommendation overwhelmingly. But unfortunately, because of some other priorities, ISBA kind of pushed this one down, and so it never was presented. And so we know that every year they ask for proposals or proposed resolutions by the end of July. And I know that Ms. Clark had asked about one that we could maybe look after next year. The language has to be in this format and presented very formally. And so one of you would go to the podium or the microphone and present that sort of thing. But so we could maybe pick that up again for next
Yeah.
year. But just due to the time frame, again, we started this one at about March of the year before, 2 years ago. And so I think that's definitely doable for another round. But if we could, we would like the board, hopefully you've read through this, and if you have questions, I can answer those. But it would allow us to return to a different, or to look at a different system, because in this system, essentially, there will always be someone that falls below 50%. And it seems to be the same districts year over year. So those with additional supplemental levies or ongoing levies, or they just, those folks, like, for example, Boise School District, which is in our category of larger school districts, they fund about 80 teachers over what the state reimburses. And so already that skews the average a little bit. Blaine County typically has a few more teachers than they're reimbursed by the state because they pick up locally. That too skews the numbers a little bit. So unfortunately, we always come out, whether it's a 10th or 100th, we're just out of that state average. And so this would allow us to take a look in, with the legislature to see if there's a better way to do that and still meet whatever need it is that they were looking for here.
Going along with just requests for resolutions, I think it's too late to do anything with that, but well, it is too late, I guess. I was just wondering if we have any suggestions to improve the bill that was vetoed on the enrollment versus enrollment versus ADA. Because I know that the governor vetoed it because of the, people abusing that. But I didn't know if we wanted to.
That is definitely something we could look at, and I think we will be in a better position probably February or March, once the legislature meets. About 2 years ago, there was a lot of talk that preceded COVID times about a new funding formula. And probably what I recall, and maybe Carl will correct me, but there were about 4 or 5 different drafts that came forward, and none of them really got any legs. And so we like the one that had an increase for special ed funding. We like that one really well. But again, even in those proposals, there were what they call winners and losers. And so some of the smaller districts seem to be penalized more greatly, and larger districts seem to be at an advantage. And so when they took that one back and tried to rework it, then someone would pull off of that and start a different one. And again, so these different drafts kept coming forward, but nothing was ever resolved. And then we got into COVID, and then we went to enrollment. And so I anticipate that this next year, that the legislature will bring that up again. And so by February or March, we should hear what may be introduced as far as new legislation. And if that is not being addressed, then we could certainly pick it up.
Okay, yeah. I would be curious to know what the disadvantages, as far as our district goes, to the enrollment would be. It doesn't seem like there's any disadvantages.
No, in fact, with enrollment, we were at an advantage.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, and even in most of the proposals that came forward, we were on the upside.
Mhm.
So we were okay. Again, some of the smaller districts, not so much.
It would be good to be
Yeah.
part of that conversation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Judy. Thank you, Boyd, unless you have any other
Thank you.
comments.
I
Okay.
have a question, and it's probably more for Jonathan, just because it didn't, I guess I assumed it would be further. The free and reduced lunch enrollments, do you have an update on where we are with those yet? Is that some, I mean, I know it's not on the agenda. Can we talk about it?
We don't have that on the agenda, so we can definitely pick it up for you at our next meeting.
So that's gonna put it in August.
Yeah, and actually, we'll know better then, because we won't know until registration where we're at.
Where the parents submit those
Yeah.
applications.
I just was curious where we were.
We're going to have to do a big promotion.
Well, that was kind of be my next
Yeah.
question.
We're back
is
to
what
the
are we
ice cream
doing to help
parties
that?
and-
Okay,
I feel comfortable saying that much.
okay.
Okay, I got it. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna slip out.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, next on the agenda is public and written comment pertinent to the action items. And we don't have either, so we'll go to our, motions here. Okay, we'll now move into action items, and the first on the action item is, the business is to hear first reading on policy 8203, graduation requirements. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on first reading the below listed policy as presented, policy 8203, graduation requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passed. Next on the item of business is to approve camp request. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the camp requests as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passed. Next on the item of business is to set the bus routes for the 2022-2023 school year.
I hereby move that the board, oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to wait for you to ask for a motion?
I asked for a motion. Did I ask for a motion? Is there a
No,
motion?
not,
I'm sorry.
I hereby move that the board set the bus routes for the 2022-23 school year and authorize the administration to make adjustments throughout the school year as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. That motion has passed. Next on the item of business is to approve the substitute teacher compensation increase and the personal leave reimbursement increase request. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the substitute teacher compensation increase and the personal leave reimbursement increase requests as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. That motion is passed. The final item of business is to renew the 2021 ISBA Resolution Number 9. Personal funding is use it or lose it. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board renew the 2021 ISBA Resolution Number 9, personnel funding, use it or lose it as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passed. That concludes this meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'm good
Oh,
on
I
that
hereby
one.
move that we adjourn the meeting.